The starship Aegis Vanguard descended through the violet clouds of Zephora 9, its engines humming softly against the strange winds of the alien planet. Dr. Mara Hayes watched the surface through the viewport, her heart beating a little faster than usual. She had seen a lot in her time: hostile terrains, rogue asteroids, alien microbes, but nothing could have prepared her for what lay ahead. The scouting team had sent a distress signal hours earlier, reporting a massive creature moving through the forests. The images were hard to interpret. From above, it looked like a moving hill, its surface glimmering in blues and purples, but there was something clearly alive beneath the shimmering skin. As the Aegis Vanguard lowered a shuttle, Mara could finally see the creature in detail. It was enormous, towering at least 60 feet, with limbs that ended in clawed digits the size of small vehicles. Its skin was smooth, almost like polished metal, yet patches of it rippled as though something moved beneath. The creature's eyes, large and luminescent, reflected intelligence and fear. It was thrashing its massive arms in frustration, knocking over trees as if they were twigs, and letting out a sound that was somehow both a roar and a cry. Mara's communicator crackled. "Dr. Hayes, are you seeing this? The team is scared. They don't know what to do." "I see it," Mara replied, her voice calm though her mind raced. "Stay back. I'm going in." The shuttle descended, lowering a landing pod onto a clearing near the creature. As Mara stepped out, the alien stopped moving for a moment and tilted its head. Its enormous eyes locked onto her, and she felt, in a strange way, that it was measuring her, judging her intentions. Mara raised her hands slowly, a universal gesture of peace. "Easy," she murmured, more to herself than to anyone else. "I'm not here to hurt you." The creature let out a sound that the translation device on Mara's wrist caught as, "Make it stop! It itches! Please!" Mara froze for a second, trying to process the words. The translation was rough but clear enough. The alien wasn't aggressive, it was desperate. Her heart pounded, a mix of fear and determination. She had treated many dangerous patients before, but never one of this size, this intelligence, this strangeness. Using her portable medtech drones, Mara cautiously approached. They floated around her like small fireflies, scanning the alien's surface and transmitting data to her wrist display. The readings were unusual. There were tiny parasitic spores beneath the creature's skin. They didn't appear deadly, at least not to humans, but they caused relentless itching for this giant being. "Thrin," she said softly, using the name the creature projected in holographic text from the translator. "I can help you, but I need you to stay calm." The alien tilted its head again, then slowly lowered one massive arm. Mara realized it was inviting her closer, a gesture of trust. She swallowed hard, adjusting the drones around the creature's skin. Each movement had to be precise. One wrong motion could injure the alien, or worse. As she worked, Mara noticed the complexity of Thrin's biology. Its skin had layers of symbiotic structures, almost like living jewelry, that were vital to its health. Disturbing them carelessly could cause harm. But the itching spores were embedded deep enough that simple topical treatment wouldn't work. She needed a strategy that combined careful mechanical extraction and biochemical intervention. The crew watched from a safe distance, some holding their breath, others marveling at the alien's sheer scale. Commander Lee approached Mara. "Are you sure this is safe?" "I have to try," Mara said. "Look at it. It's suffering, and it's intelligent. It trusts us. We can't just leave it." The first attempts were slow. Tiny drones hovered near the alien's skin, emitting gentle pulses to coax the spores to the surface. Thrin flinched at first, but Mara used soft tones and slow gestures, and eventually the alien began to remain still. It was an odd partnership, human intelligence directing machines, alien patience guiding the process. Hours passed. Mara began to understand the rhythm of Thrin's biology. Its skin would pulse, then relax, then pulse again, like breathing. The drones had to move in sync with these pulses, gently lifting spores without tearing the living layers beneath. Sweat beaded on Mara's forehead, but she refused to stop. Thrin made small sounds of relief occasionally, vibrations through its massive body that even the shuttle's sensors picked up. Mara could feel its gratitude, even if it could not express it in ways she fully understood. She realized that in moments like this, the bridge between species was built not with words, but with trust, patience, and care. By late afternoon, the first wave of relief became visible. Thrin lowered itself onto its knees, letting out a sound that translated to something like, "Thank you. Relief is coming." Mara adjusted the drones for a final sweep of the accessible areas, careful not to overstep. The alien's immense shoulders relaxed, and for the first time since the team had seen it, Thrin appeared calm. Still, Mara knew this was not the end. The spores had burrowed deep, and her instruments indicated that a secondary stage of treatment would be necessary. But for now, the giant alien had stopped thrashing. It even lowered its head, close enough that Mara could examine its enormous eyes. They reflected a strange mix of exhaustion and wonder, and for a moment, she felt a profound connection with this being. Commander Lee approached again, this time speaking quietly. "Dr. Hayes, do you think humans could really fix this?" Mara looked at Thrin, then back at her instruments. "We already are," she said. "But it's going to take more than just technology. We have to think differently. Humans, we're good at problem solving in ways other species aren't. This is where we shine." The alien let out a sound of agreement, a deep rumble that seemed almost joyful. Mara smiled, despite her exhaustion. It was rare to see such direct evidence of gratitude, especially from a creature so different from humanity. As night fell on Zephora 9, Mara sat near the edge of the clearing, reviewing her data and planning the next stage. She needed to design a treatment that could penetrate the deeper layers of the alien's skin without causing harm. Nanobots might be the answer, guided carefully by her own hands as an interface, but even that was risky. One mistake, and the entire alien could be hurt. Thrin had lowered itself further, resting against the remaining forest, but its eyes remained open, watching Mara with a kind of patient curiosity. It seemed to understand that she was working for it, not against it. That understanding, Mara realized, was extraordinary. In the vast galaxy, there were intelligent species, but few could connect so directly across the boundaries of form and biology. Humans had a rare ability to improvise, to use empathy as well as intelligence. That might be their greatest strength. Hours turned into the deep silence of night, broken only by soft, mechanical hums from the med-tech drones. Mara leaned back and allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. She had gained the alien's trust. She had stopped the immediate suffering, and she had proven something to herself. Humans could make a difference, not with brute force, but with care, intelligence, and courage. Yet, even in this calm moment, Mara could feel that the challenge was far from over. The spores had not been completely eradicated. Thrin would still suffer if she did not find a more complete solution, and she would have to do it quickly, before the alien's health deteriorated further. She glanced at the enormous creature one last time before heading to her shuttle. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "we finish this, and we make it stop completely." The stars above Zephora 9 shone down on them, strange and unfamiliar, yet somehow comforting. Mara knew that this mission would be remembered, not for battles fought, not for colonies conquered, but for a moment when humanity's ingenuity and compassion bridged a gap wider than the galaxy itself. And somewhere, deep in the alien's chest, Thryn seemed to understand that too. It let out a soft, rumbling sound that Mara interpreted as a promise. Tomorrow, relief would come. And with it, a bond between species that neither could have imagined before. The morning sun rose over the violet forests of Zephora 9, casting long shadows across the clearing where Thryn rested. Dr. Mara Hayes had slept little, her mind racing with plans for the second stage of treatment. The first wave of relief had helped, but she knew the spores were still embedded deep beneath the alien's skin. They were clever, adaptive, and stubborn, like tiny invaders that would not leave unless carefully removed. Mara reviewed her data one last time before stepping into the clearing. Thryn was awake, its massive head lifted and eyes following her movements. There was a calmness to it now, a trust that had been absent yesterday. She felt a surge of determination. Humans were being tested in a way that no war or disaster could replicate. Success required intelligence, patience, and courage. "Good morning, Thryn," she said softly. "Today we finish this, I promise." The alien's eyes flickered in response, a deep, resonant vibration echoing through its chest. Mara adjusted the medtech drones around her. Today, they would act as both tools and protectors. The plan was complicated. Sonic pulses to loosen the spores, guided nanobots to remove them safely, and Mara's own biology to help neutralize what remained. It was risky. One mistake could harm Thryn, or worse, endanger her own life. She approached the alien slowly, holding out her hands in a gesture of peace. Thryn responded by lowering one massive arm, palm up, as if inviting her to step onto it. Mara hesitated, then placed a ladder at the base of the creature's arm and carefully climbed onto it. Standing on Thryn's enormous palm, she felt a strange mix of fear and awe. She had been close to many dangerous creatures, but none of them had been so intelligent, so aware, so alive in a way that demanded respect. The drones hovered around her, their lights blinking as they scanned the alien's skin. Mara activated the sonic pulse emitters. The gentle waves passed through Thryn's layers, causing tiny movements in the embedded spores. Mara watched carefully as the alien flinched slightly, but did not panic. It seemed to understand that she was helping. "Almost there, Thryn," she murmured, guiding the nanobots along the lines of the alien's skin. The bots were designed to extract the spores without causing damage to the symbiotic structures. Mara had to move slowly, adjusting their paths, compensating for the alien's breathing pulses. Each movement required focus, precision, and careful timing. Hours passed. Mara could feel exhaustion creeping into her muscles, but she refused to stop. She glanced down at Thryn's enormous chest, watching the rhythmic rise and fall as the alien's breathing synced with her movements. It was almost hypnotic, a living rhythm that made every adjustment feel like a dance between two species. Suddenly, a spike of resistance appeared. The nanobots detected that some spores had adapted, resisting extraction. Mara frowned. This was unexpected. She realized that the alien's biology was unique in a way she had never seen before. The spores were not just parasites. They were interacting with Thryn's own immune system, making them harder to remove. She took a deep breath. "Okay, Plan B," she whispered to herself. Her mind raced. The spores reacted strangely to human enzymes. Mara had an idea. If she could serve as a biological interface, combining her own physiology with the nanobots, she might neutralize the remaining spores without harming Thryn. Thryn tilted its head as if sensing her decision. Mara felt a pulse of warmth, almost like understanding. She carefully positioned the nanobots on her gloves, then touched the alien's skin with deliberate gentleness. The bots extended into the surface layers, and she felt a strange vibration, spores trying to resist, but failing against the combined force of human biology and technology. It was tense. Mara could feel the alien shiver under her touch, tiny movements rippling through its immense form. She spoke softly, calming it. "Almost done, Thrin. You're doing great. Trust me." Minutes felt like hours. The drones worked tirelessly, guided by Mara's hands and intuition. Slowly, the resistant spores began to detach. One by one, they were neutralized, absorbed by the nanobots, or dislodged from the alien's skin. Mara could see the relief spreading through Thrin's massive body. Its shoulders relaxed, its head lowered slightly, and it let out a sound of quiet comfort. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the last spores were gone. Mara stepped back carefully, letting the drones hover around Thrin for a final sweep. The alien stood fully, its enormous chest rising and falling with calm strength. Mara could feel the gratitude radiating from it, a silent communication that needed no words. Thrin lowered its head to her level, eyes gleaming with something profound, thankfulness, respect, and awe. Mara smiled, exhausted but exhilarated. She had done it. Humans had solved a problem that no one else could, not with weapons, not with sheer power, but with intelligence, compassion, and ingenuity. The crew slowly approached, marveling at the sight. Commander Lee shook his head in amazement. "I don't think anyone will ever believe this," he said. "A human medic, healing a giant alien that no one else could touch." Mara shrugged, brushing dust from her uniform. "It wasn't just me," she said. "It was all of us, and it was Thrin. We worked together. That's what matters. Humans, we can adapt. We can think in ways other species can't. That's our strength." Thrin let out a deep, resonant vibration, almost like a laugh. It extended one massive limb and gently touched Mara's shoulder, careful not to harm her. The gesture was immense in meaning, a bridge between species that few would ever understand. Mara felt a warmth in her chest. This was not just a mission, it was a statement. Humanity could make a difference, not through domination, but through understanding. Before the crew departed, Thrin lowered its massive head to the forest floor, plucking glowing crystals embedded in the ground. They shone with bioluminescent patterns, forming intricate designs that seemed to map the terrain of Sci-Fi 9. It carefully handed them to Mara. She studied them in awe, realizing this was more than a gift. It was knowledge, a symbol of trust, and an invitation for humanity to learn more about this planet and its inhabitants. Mara tucked the crystals carefully into a containment unit. "Thank you, Thrin," she said softly. "We'll remember this, and we'll make sure your planet is safe." The alien gave a slow nod, then turned, towering over the forest as it moved back toward its home. Mara and the crew watched, silent, as it disappeared among the violet trees. The sense of accomplishment was profound. Humans had proven themselves not through brute force or dominance, but through ingenuity, courage, and empathy. As the Aegis Vanguard lifted off, Mara looked down at the clearing, feeling a connection she could not explain. It was more than relief, more than success. It was a reminder that humanity's greatest strength lay not in weapons or numbers, but in the ability to solve impossible problems, to reach out across differences, and to show care in ways that no one else could. Thrin's final vibration echoed faintly as they ascended. Mara smiled. This was the beginning of a new chapter, not just for humans, but for the possibility of trust and friendship between species. And somewhere deep in the forests of Sci-Fi 9, a giant alien would remember the human who had helped it when no one else could. Mara leaned back in her seat, exhaustion washing over her, but it was the kind of exhaustion that comes from meaningful work. She had faced the unknown, adapted, and succeeded. Humanity had proven its value in the galaxy, not through domination, but through compassion, intelligence, and courage. And that, she thought, was worth more than any medal or recognition. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, bright and distant. But for Mara, they felt closer now. She had bridged a gap that seemed insurmountable, reached across species and size, and made a difference. The galaxy was vast, strange, and sometimes dangerous, but humanity, she realized, could shine in ways others could not. And as Xiphora 9 faded below them, Mara made a silent promise to herself. No matter what the future held, she would continue to show that humans could solve the impossible, care for the unimaginable, and shine as beacons of hope and ingenuity wherever they went.